Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I am Fox, and today I wanted to revisit my Pestilence build that I originally released, or re-released should I say, with the introduction of Memento. I had a comment from one of my subscribers recently asking if I had a TU12 build for Pestilence, and my response was that I haven't actually really changed it at all, as how the weapon plays and how the game plays hasn't really changed too much in TU12. The main, I suppose, difference being that with the introduction of all of these new skill exotics and skill gear sets and weapons and so on, that people have gravitated more towards that. And you know, that makes perfect sense. Skill builds are safe, they're efficient, they're reliable, but I still use Pestilence almost all of the time, and even though this is a glass cannon build, I comfortably use this in solo heroic gameplay, and I actually use this in legendary group play as well. Now I'm going to show you some solo heroic mission today because I don't have my team on, and you know, as a disclaimer for this build, you do not want to run this without a team that understands your build and are built around you. How we used to run Legendary Summit is 2 of these builds, or very similar to this, one full tardigrade, one full armor tardigrade build to do all of the objectives and so on, and some sort of healing, as that kind of makes sure that you're not going to go down, as Glass Cannon is pretty ruthless in Legendary Summit. But honestly, if you have 2 of these builds with that healer and tank, you will absolutely destroy. You'll run through every room with ease, even faster than any skill build, and it works really well. So yeah, I just want to sort of show you all that it does definitely work in TU12. What I will do in the usual fashion is go through the build. This will all be time stamped, of course. I'll load into a solo heroic mission and just show you, how I play it and why I think you should all, if you're not using it already, be picking this up in TU12 if you want to break from skill builds and something a bit more interactive and good fun. So to start with, we are using the Gunner specialisation. I've never switched off of this for Pestilence. Gunner was made for LMGs and it has so many good passives that just complement this build. We have the 10% handling whilst in cover, which is amazing for Pestilence, as one of its biggest weaknesses is of course its handling. Handling buffs our reload speed, which is really good. It buffs our stability and accuracy, which is great for landing your shots, and our swap speed. It gives us a 30% armor bonus armor whenever we use an armor kit, which is great, as we're currently set at 1.1 million. So that's an additional 330k that we're going to get straight off the bat. Fantastic. It gives us 10% armor on kill, which is also really good, because whilst we have a lot of armor regen on this build, Plague of the Outcasts will just tear through a room like fire. And all of those kills will give you that 10% back each and every time, so that works really well as well. We have a foam grenade, which is fantastic if anything's in cover, as LMGs do tend to suppress. This will just bring them out of cover. You can shoot them down whilst they're foamed to the ground, build up your stacks, and they'll pass around the room perfectly. So loads of reasons to use Gunner. Even the ammo regen is really good as well, just getting your ammo back. It's not really needed, but for those longer legendary runs it is also pretty good. Pestilence, I'm sure you all know this weapon. If you played Dark Zone even a little bit, you probably would have had about 7,000 of these things. It does come with damage to targets out of cover and damage to armor, both of which buff not only the weapon damage, as in the bullet damage, but also the Plague of the Outcast damage as well. So it's technically a double buff, and one of only 2 weapon archetypes in game that can run with both of those multiplicative damage bonus stats. The other, of course, being shotguns. Plague of the Outcasts, for those of you that don't know, simply calculates all of your weapon damage, factoring in damage to targets out of cover and damage to armor, and then applies this as a 10-second damage over time that stacks up to 50 times. And since it was patched, and this is when my love for Pestilence kind of grew to top levels, it now works fantastically. It correctly adds together all of the stacks in the room as opposed to overriding them. So if you have 10 stacks on one guy and 10 on another, and one of them dies, it won't just override the other, it will just go up to 20, and so on and so forth. It also now correctly passes from any skill that isn't a reclaimer station. For some reason, when they patched it, they forgot about reclaimer stations, which maybe one day they'll fix that as well. So it does kind of suck if it ends up on a reclaimer station, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. If it's in cover, you're going to kill it with Plague of the Outcast, and then they can't heal the enemies anymore. So still a really powerful talent. This spreads also to any enemy within 25 meters, so we're talking nearly double the radius of Eclipse Protocol at the moment, which is only 15 meters. So yeah, it's very, very easy to keep this going at 50 stacks. For the armor pieces, we are running 2-piece Walker and Harris. I used to run 2 Walker and Harris with a this particular mask just here, the Hollow Man, which is a named Jarl mask, but this is an exceptionally rare drop in the Dark Zone. It's really, really hard to get this, and whilst the 10% damage to health is fantastic, as it helps us break down even faster heavies and warhounds, which are classed as health targets, it's too hard to farm for, particularly if you're a relatively casual player. You don't play the game too much and you're not interested in farming the Dark Zone. So I have decided to scrap that today. I've issued it in favour of a Bellstone piece. Two-piece gives us 5% weapon damage and 5% damage to armor. Both of these are once again buffed by, or do buff Plague of the Outcasts and your per bullet damage. And I've rolled weapon handling onto this piece. We already have 10% from Gunner, and I think just one of your pieces should be the 8% weapon handling, as you know, that is really great for nullifying the pretty much the only weakness of Pestilence, which of course is its handling. So this is weapon damage, crit chance, and weapon handling. The second piece is, like most of my pieces here, crit chance and crit damage, and that is my holster. The chest piece I've since swapped out to a Bellstone for the 1% armor regen, as this stacks beautifully with the 3% that you get from Memento, and as you only get that at 30 stacks, which you will get very quickly, by the way, even in group play. When you come into the start of a mission, you can be squishy, and you will be squishy with glass cannon. So that Bellstone plus the additional armor that it gives us, buffing us up to 1.1 million, actually synergizes really well with this build. The amount of weapon damage you're going to get from all of the bonuses is pretty insane. You can still hit over 1 million a tick. So the one blue one here with the 1% armor regen, in my opinion, is a solid choice. This is crit chance, crit damage, and of course glass cannon. I know this is a dangerous perk to run, I do appreciate that, and a lot of people have come away from glass cannon, but because it stacks with both Plague of the Outcast and the bullet damage, it's just too good not to use, and one of the few builds, if not now the only build, that I still run glass cannon with. Try it out and honestly you won't regret it. We are of course running the two most important named items in the game for any high red DPS build, namely Contractor's Gloves and Fox's Prayer. These are an absolute must, and if you haven't got these you need to prioritise farming them, because they are just, for any PvP or PvE weapon damage build, these are best in slot. The only knees that do more damage are Sawyers, but you have to remain still for 10 seconds. So, you know, damage to targets out of cover is amazing for this build, and the Contractors are even better as we're getting a double buff. The 10% LMG damage, once again, buffs the Plague damage and the bullet damage, and of course the 8% damage to armor as well. Just too many buffs not to run these two. They're just best in slot for any DPS build at the moment. These are rolled to crit chance and crit damage. The final and centerpiece of this build is Memento. I know it's another Memento build, but you know, I originally showcased this build when Memento came out, and it was a very popular video back then because a lot of you realised that Memento synergizes beautifully with Pestilence, as it buffs again the Plague and bullet damage. When you're at max stacks, which is only 30 backpack trophies, you'll gain 3% armor regen, and we'll go up to 4% with the Bellstone. You'll be gaining 30% skill efficiency, which is amazing for the two skills that we're using, and I'll come to that shortly. And we gain 30% additional weapon damage. When we pick up a trophy, we get the temporary bonus of an additional 25% weapon damage, 20% bonus armor, and a further 5% skill efficiency. This backpack is quite simply the single best exotic in the game. It is absolute top of the pile, and in my opinion a must for any high DPS Pestilence build. So yeah, Memento is fantastic here. We've got the additional armor and skill tier as well as the weapon damage from the 3 core attributes, so that means that our skills are currently set at tier 1, as you can see on the right side of my screen there. The 2 skills, and the only 2 skills that you want to consider running here, are the Res Hive. This is very, very important as glass cannon, particularly Pestilence builds, as they pull in all of the aggro and then some, you're going to go down. You know, the damage of this build more than makes up for the occasional death, but the Res Hive is, in my opinion, a necessity. In group play, this is amazing if you run it with the named card pistol, which can drop anywhere in game. With +1 skill tier, in conjunction with the 1 skill tier from Memento, we actually have 3 charges. This means if you're in a team and 2 people go down, you can swap to your pistol throughout the Res Hive to res both of them and still have a charge for yourself. And once your backpack trophies are stacked up, the 30% skill efficiency means that your cooldowns will be drastically reduced. So fantastic option to run with this build, and I wouldn't consider any other skill here. Decoy is also a great option purely for the amount of aggro that this build pulls, particularly in Legendary where you've got a lot of grenade and drone spam. And unfortunately they accidentally reverted the grenade accuracy nerf that they applied to NPCs, so they are pinpoint accurate, and the decoy just helps to pull that away from you. Once again, this is massively buffed by skill efficiency. The cooldown is reduced quite a lot, and being at skill tier 1 we do buff the health, duration and threat level of this decoy, so it is fantastic for this build just to keep some heat off of you whilst you can regen your armor with the 4% total. My stats are as follows. We're sat at 108k weapon damage, which is amazing. We have 52% crit chance and 80% crit damage, as well as 19% damage to armor. So anything outside of heavies and warhounds we're going to absolutely melt down, and even when we come to those heavies and warhounds, because they're slow moving targets and very large, you're going to build up your stacks on them very quickly and be hitting huge amounts of bullet and Plague of the Outcast damage on them. So loads of additional damage on this build. What we'll now do is load into a game, and I will show you, or a mission should I say, and I will show you how this all plays out. Right, so what I've done is loaded into American History Museum, set it to heroic, no directives, solo of course. Let's see how we get on. So like most areas, you want to start by placing your decoy. I was going to throw that, but apparently I just dropped it. Never mind. It's just like they don't throw grenades at that and it hits me. See what kind of Plague of the Outcast damage we can get to without any backpack trophies. Probably a little bit out of range there, but it's all good. It's currently at 450k already. Where's this guy come from? Now the best thing about Pestilence is if somebody does rush you like that, it is actually quite easy to stagger them. Just because you're essentially applying 2 forms of damage, you do stagger them, and that means that they're not shooting at you. So it's not the end of the world with glass cannon if you do get rushed like that.
The first priority is to release the prisoners to keep the True Sons busy. You'll be looking for some kind of security terminal. The security terminal should be somewhere nearby.
What you want to do is try and prioritize the correct target when starting. So if you've got rushers, like these grenadiers for example, these are usually the worst ones. They do typically go for your decoy, but you know, ultimately this build does put a lot of aggro, and as a result you will get stuff shoot at you semi-frequently. The grenadier first if you can. So we're currently up to 835k, and I've only got a few backpack trophies. Look at that, I didn't even need to shoot that guy. Now of course, every time you pick up a trophy and you build up your stacks, you're improving your skill efficiency. So not only will you notice your decoy cooldown be lower every single time you break it down, but the health of the decoy and the duration will be longer each time as well. So your decoy just becomes more and more powerful the longer the mission goes on, and you know, that's obviously very good for this build, as again the aggro that you pull will be pretty substantial. Now they did buff the accuracy from hip firing, so there's no shame in just doing what I'm doing here and essentially not coming out of cover, as we can quite easily stagger this guy. Where is he going? Nice. Decoy out again. Don't forget you also get the 5% increased rate of fire on kill, which does proc off of Plague of the Outcasts as well, and that just means that you're going to build up your stacks even faster. So again, one more reason why Gunner is, in my opinion, the only choice by really a country mile. 856k already. Foamed. No, never mind, he's already dead. Nice and close for these ones. I use my foam grenade here.
Vital signs critical.
Ow! That's where the 1.1 million armor comes in handy.
Agent incapacitated.
Oh, next wave coming already. And this is also why we run the res hive. Guy's having a bad time by the looks of it. He's already dead. Nice. What the hell have these got behind me? So this is why suppressing them isn't a bad thing with an LMG, because, you know, that gave me a chance to recover my health, which you can see has already gone up to max. And, you know, he wasn't firing on me at the time, so it's okay to go down. That's the whole point of the res hive. We're going to get the reduced skill cooldown anyway because of all the skill efficiency we're gaining. And when you suppress them like that by hip firing or firing into them, it just helps to keep you alive even longer. This is definitely the most dangerous room in this mission, in my opinion. Bad time to have my res hive on cooldown, but it's important to show you the weaknesses and the strengths of this build. Let's get the guy on the turret first. If we can get shots on him. Rate of fire increase to apply stacks faster. This is what I love about Pestilence. You're dealing damage that entire time, even though I was in cover there and reloading. So again, you know, it just, unlike other LMG builds, it just helps to sort of remove the weaknesses. Stagger this guy here, so you see that because of all the additional damage that we're applying. this trophy real quick to buff the damage even further. It's now gone from 420k to 462. The general rule of thumb is just to follow your stacks around the room. Wherever they are, just shoot that guy. All you're going to do is keep them at 50, or as close to as possible. 715k. These guys are sitting back here somewhere, so we're going to throw the decoy out. Grab the trophy. Stagger that guy. Well, even though I missed most of my shots there, the damage is just ridiculous. And now that I'm starting to get a lot of armor regen, I can quite comfortably just push this guy, stagger him. Oh, maybe should have reloaded first. It don't make a difference because he's been damaged in the background. Pesti is indeed the bestie. Section's nice and easy, just a few enemies that are going to be focused on killing each other. I'm not even going to sit and cover here because I don't need to, because now that I'm close to max stacks, everything just dies super quick. Again, decoy out first. Now that he's suppressed, I'm going to grab a trophy just to buff that tick damage, even though it's pretty low. Go up top. And yeah, even though this is a glass cannon build, it's just super viable solo. I mean, I've already got my charges back from my res hive. $600k. If he had armor, that'd be a lot higher. Oh, he's getting destroyed. 900k per tick. Oh, this is such a good room for Pestilence. Sit back here, murderize everything. Literally 0 risk to myself. 1.1 million per tick. Yeah, I don't think so. A for effort though. So the fact that we were hitting 1.1 million with a 2 blue build just says it all about Memento combined with Pestilence. And Glass Cannon is absolutely, you know, doing that for us. Right, that's it. You sit right in the middle. Easy as. Coming into this final boss area, I'm just going to sit at the top here. If I get a chance to, I will go and pick up a trophy to get the temporary buff, just to see what kind of plague damage we can get to. Where is he? This out just to take some heat off me for a second. I don't think so, guy. Oh wow, that amazing accuracy there, boys and girls. I mean, if somebody with his accuracy as bad as mine can make this build work, then imagine what you guys could do with it. Decoy out, so we're starting to take a bit of heat here. Deal with the sniper first because he's a priority target. We've got a guy pushing my left here. It's not the end of the world because I've got 1.1 million armor and 4% armor regen now. Which actually, what is it at this? 44k, there you go. Tons of armor regen. So we're dealing 61k to this guy. What's going to go up to 73, 80k, there you go. So you can see that, you know, the huge additional damage that you get from picking up a trophy whilst the Plague of the Outcasts is already on them. And if it's safe to do so, you do want to run through a trophy, particularly if it's on a boss or something, just to increase the damage even further. So that's it, that's the build. You know, you can see it still works incredibly well in TU12. I absolutely love this build. You know, Pesti, in my opinion, really is the bestie. It's my favourite exotic in the game, and it pairs beautifully with the best exotic in the game, which is Memento. Screenshot that build, try it out for yourself. You know, I'm sure there's going to be some of you out there that don't agree with glass cannon, and that's absolutely fine. If you want, just swap it off for obliterate, which doesn't work too well on this build because it's hard to get your crit chance high, and you know, it is only a 605 RPM weapon. But unbreakable, obliterate, trauma, there's plenty of choices you could go for. I truly think that with the 4% armor regen, the tons of armor that we have on the build already, the 1.1 million, the 10% armor on kill, all stacks together to give us such ridiculous amounts of survivability, with the fact that our cooldowns of our hive are reduced quite drastically, that you can really get away with running this. And you already saw me hit 1.1 million there, you know, without even picking up a temporary buff. So yeah, it works, it's fantastic. Please do let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you run this build any differently, I'm curious to hear how you do so. I'll respond to as many of those comments as possible, and until then, I will see you all in the next video. Peace.